Of HR and PJs, everyone. Today we have Simon from Asda on joining us as a co-host. I'll be asking him a few questions around how Asda's adapted throughout lockdown and a few things about recruiting. So excited to hear a little bit of your perspective today, Simon. I think today we'll kick off again with what's one thing that's made you happy. Because again, the weather is crap. It has a bad effect on my mood. So go on the list. Caroline.
Two things today, Rosie. One is I'm going to the hairdressers tonight at 6 o'clock. Woohoo. And the second one is my eldest son's football training is restarting tonight. So two good things.
Great. Sounds like fun. Joe?
Similarly to Caroline, I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow, which is very exciting. And I got my stitches out tomorrow so I can exercise again.
Amazing.
Stitches in my arm. So yeah, exciting stuff. New me.
Thanks for the heads up about the haircut too. I will remember to compliment you on it tomorrow.
Yeah, I always have to tell Rosie to compliment my hair.
Kevin?
I'm going on the holiday tomorrow.
Amazing. Where are you going?
It's a mini break, a very mini break, but we're going to Broadstairs in Kent for 3 nights, just because we have to go somewhere. We haven't been anywhere for what seems like ever, so Broadstairs it is.
Very nice, very nice. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, me too.
Mark Thompson?
I don't know. It's been a good. It's felt. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. We're properly back to school now, and it's kind of like a proper group.
Mark, I think you froze up.
Lost him.
Yeah, we might have lost him. Okay. I'll carry on. Sorry, Mark. Rosie, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. I am seeing some family at the weekend in a garden for the first time since kind of before March. So, yeah.
Amazing. That'll be good. Silke. You're on mute.
So I've got 2 things that are exciting. I just organised. It's my husband's birthday on Saturday, so we're having family around in the garden and hoping, fingers crossed, for good weather. And I'm heading off to Germany with to visit family on Tuesday. So 2 good
Amazing.
things.
That would be great.
Will
you have to quarantine at all when you go into Germany?
No. And I'm only staying with. We're staying with my parents, so we're fine. Just seeing my parents and family, and then heading to my sister's place in Holland on the coast as well. So yeah, exciting times.
Great, that sounds great. Okay, well, we'll go into Valerie. You're the last one.
Okay, well, I'm in France, very similar to Silke. I've seen some of my family at last, so very happy. And I got this view.
That's an incredible view. Oh my gosh. You'll invite us all over when we're free to travel again to your part of the world, right?
Yeah, Lake Geneva, Evian-les-Bains.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
Yes, I'm happy.
Fantastic.
Jenny, what's made you happy today?
Me? Oh, bless you. I'm in Devon. So, like a few of you, I've shifted, and I'm seeing swallows and swifts flying about, and the nature, the flora down here is amazing, and it feels like somebody's dialed it up. It's all of a sudden I'm noticing every single little flower, and it just feels amazing. So I feel very grateful to be down here. Change of scenery. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough, Kevin. Broadstairs is going to be amazing for you. It's just, if you can shift your scenery at all, it's quite refreshing actually. So yeah, feel the love for you all. Just shift something, change something. It helps.
Yeah, definitely. Simon, I think we have your sound on. I think we can hear you.
Oh, great. You can hear me now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm thankful for the sound. And the other one would be, today's the first day I've been back in the office in 4 months and physically seen people that I work with.
Wow.
So it's been really nice to connect to people that I just haven't seen other than on endless Zooms for month on month. So that's been quite nice. And also somebody knitted my dog a jumper, which I've just picked up, which is great. So I'm really happy with that as well.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Dachshund, which is a miniature sausage dog.
Oh, and, you have to share a picture with us.
I have a compulsion for buying and getting people to knit him clothes. So he's got quite a wardrobe.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for joining on as a co-host today. Just a little bit of background for everyone. Simon posted a photo recently. Was that you in your pajamas? Or was
no, it wasn't.
Okay. Well, it was a post on LinkedIn about being able to wear pajama bottoms and wear a smart top for interviews. And then Matt Phelan, you all know, commented on the post and we got connected and I asked him to join your PJs. So I thought that was pretty funny. And it's so true. I think a lot of us just wear our PJs throughout the day. I do sometimes, so to be honest. So Simon, it'd be great if you could just share a little bit of background on about yourself and about Asda and how you guys have adapted throughout lockdown.
Yeah, so I'm the talent acquisition manager for home offices at Asda. So Asda's head office is in Leeds in the UK. We have about 1,500 people that work within our head office across all our key functions like finance, commercial, tech, all that you would expect within a big corporate function. I've been here just over a year, so I manage a team of 5. And it's been a really interesting time for us as a retailer because we've always been office bound. So from the whole history of Asda since its conception, we have been an office bound business. So almost overnight, without any roadmap, we became a remote working business and our head office became just a ghost town, and then our homes became a hive of activity. So it's been really interesting to see a business that I think to the outside can be seen as very corporate and bricks and mortar, old school retailer, adapt, pivot and change because it had to, but has actually been very successful at it as well. So I think one of the things we get with flexible working, people don't allow enough of it because they don't believe it's going to be productive. But we've all been forced into doing that now. So as a business, we've been forced into doing this, but it's actually worked out quite well. And I think from a mental health perspective, it's helped. I think work-life balance. I think a lot of people have got so much out of it that we probably would never have had without it. So trying to see the good thing of COVID, I think it's definitely helped our business transform and understand flexible working in a different way. Absolutely.
You mentioned something about like how people's perspectives on it is a corporate culture. I mean, has that changed internally your culture because of lockdown and because you had to become more flexible?
I think it has. I mean, we're a big business, so yeah, we're one of the top 4 supermarket retailers in the UK. We have 140,000 people that work for us. We're part of Walmart in the US. So just general, we're an established retailer, but I don't think when people think of supermarkets, they think tech or they think finance, they think supermarket. But, very much we are moving now to be much more of a tech focused business because tech is really fueling our future and where we go and what we do and how people shop and how behaviors are changing. So I think for my part of our job now as a recruitment team is really bringing awareness to the public as what a career here is. It's not necessarily just working in a store. It could be being a data scientist. It could be many different things, but it's also making sure that we have the environment where those people can work. And I think, we've got to remember that Generation Z are going to be probably 70% of the workforce within the next 10 years. So it's making sure that we evolve to be inclusive and make sure that we hire the best talent possible. And that talent is drawn to us, doesn't just see us as a safe bet or as the old school type of business, but sees us as a progressive business. Yes, a big business, but a business that's also progressive and moving in a different way.
Absolutely. And with your staff, I mean, I think a lot of retailers have had to, obviously, as the lockdown happened, you are one of the stores that will have stayed open. So have you hired on any kind of new kind of talent since lockdown? Or have you seen any kind of different trends in recruitment at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So we hired 25,000 temporary workers to work in our stores over 4 weeks. We normally, under normal conditions, hire 36,000 people in a year. So we did that over 4 weeks, working remotely under COVID conditions. So yeah, that was quite a challenge. It's interesting how we actually did that, because the way that we hired those people in that kind of scale as well was going back to more manual methods rather than a lot of the digital methods that we use to hire today with candidate experience and everything else that's at the heart of that. We had to actually almost regress in order to move forward when it came to COVID.
Okay. It's really, really interesting. It's amazing how much you've almost tripled your hiring rate in just less than like 4 months.
Yeah, because everything changed overnight. So all of a sudden, customer behaviour changed. I mean, in the UK, you found that toilet roll was as valuable as a Rolex watch at one point. So we were in this kind of situation where there was a huge supply and demand, but people didn't want to go into stores; they wanted things delivered. But then our delivery model wasn't set up for the capacity that we needed it to. So, to give you an idea, our online delivery shopping model in 8 weeks has grown 8 years. It's running at a level we expected in 2028. But then you think, well, how do you train people to be a driver when you've got social distancing in place and all the logistics that kind of comes around there? But I think what it's done as a story for Asda, it's shown that we can pivot as a business and that we can adapt as a business and we can thrive as a business. And it's pushed us into areas that we probably wouldn't have gone necessarily ourselves. We were made to do it, and we had to make a lot of decisions without thinking. And we maybe overthink sometimes, and we've made mistakes during that time as well, by the way, but it just allowed us we had to make decisions 100 every day rather than actually overthinking it, going through it with layers and layers of management. Things just got done. And that meant some mistakes, but it also meant some real progress as a business as well.
Simon, Mark here. Can you tell us about any of the mistakes?
Yeah, so one of them was overhiring. We hired probably more people than we needed because we went back to a manual method. So we weren't as close to the needs, because needs were changing on a daily basis as well. So in the UK, every store may have people falling down with COVID any day. They may just need to be off work, so you had to get replacements. But we didn't manage that accurately enough. We probably ended up with hiring too many people. We hired 25,000, which is a heck of a lot to cover all the need. But yeah, going back to manual methods, you realize why you don't go back to manual methods in the first place when it comes to recruitment, because it makes inaccuracies like that, but it also allowed us to move faster. And I think also, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but candidate experience wasn't as good as it could have been during that time, because we had to bring in so many people over such a fast period of time. You didn't have the candidate experience that we've been working towards over the last few years, making sure that every touch point's great, it feels good, it's a smooth process. It wasn't like that at all. It wasn't chaotic, but it was very much, everybody was just trying to get people into work as fast as possible.
Just a follow-up question to that. Sorry, Rosie. And did you find that you were attracting different types of candidates, people that had been furloughed who were in skilled work, or youngsters who planning on traveling or just finished uni, or was there a different pool of people coming in?
That's not my question.
that was one of the absolute best things about it, because we got people from all walks of life and for all different reasons wanting work. So whether they needed it financially, whether they just wanted to support the effort, because it did feel like that in those first few weeks. It was a nationwide drive across all supermarkets to feed the nation and make sure that people weren't worrying about having their shopping delivered. And you had people from all walks of life, all demographics. It was quite interesting, the mix of people that came on a temporary basis to help us through that period.
Could you, I also want to go back to you said 2 different kinds of recruitment. There was a more digital kind of recruitment and then a more manual. Could you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So in order to get the people in on the numbers that we needed, we sent them into store to be hired. So they didn't go through a digital process. They didn't go through our normal systems that they would go through where you apply for a role. Literally, they would come through to us. We would log them down, push them out to stores, and stores would then make the hiring decision on the day. So we'd be turning around people from a non-hire to a hire within 24 hours, normally through the digital process where you go through the different interview stages, etc. That would probably take, weeks, if not, several days. So it just speeded everything up, but it meant that it put everything into a manual process of sending people straight into stores without going through the sifting, the pre-interviews, all those different levels that we'd normally do.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go
ahead. Just on that, and was there more supply or more demand?
Oh, there was more demand. I mean, the demand was crazy. I mean, we had a huge amount of application. We could have yeah, I mean, we brought on 25,000 people. We could have brought on hundreds of thousands of people. The demand was huge, and that was across all different supermarkets. Every supermarket had the same kind of conditions, and I think that was one of the good things that came out of it as well. You know, we are in a competitive industry in supermarkets, but there was almost an amnesty across supermarkets to work together. So there was a real collective effort to hire as many people, because there's a lot of people hurting. You know, there's a lot of people that needed that money, needed it quick. They were struggling. They were worried. So, you know, it was a good thing, but it was, yeah, we could have hired 10 times more, which was one of the frustrations, that you could only hire so many people.
Thanks.
So next question for you, Simon. So as you were reopening stores to the public and how you're staying open, what kind of safety measures did you implement for your people, and what worked and what didn't work?
Well, it all worked. I mean, we worked all around government guidelines. So, you know, you had your, you know, social distancing, you had the cleaning, you had everything in place that the government expected us to have. I suppose as a business, it slows down the business, because you could only have so many people in stores at a certain time. So we didn't have the same footfall as normal, but we just, obviously it was important. It's the most important thing was to keep customers safe. So yeah, we adhered to all the conditions that we were expected to keep up to. It just meant that you had a lot less footfall going through stores. Demand was different. So again, at the beginning, not to keep going on about toilet roll, but for the first couple of weeks, it was one of the hardest products to get in the UK. So you know, you also had some customers that were hoarding. So getting actual supplies onto the shelves was quite hard and difficult as well at times, because you know, you plan ahead as a supermarket months and months for what demand is going to be, but almost overnight, behaviours changed. You know, we all wanted certain things that we maybe didn't expect to want or need.
I'm still wondering to this day why it was only toilet roll that was limited in stores. I don't know. All over the world too, not even just in the UK.
It was limited because people just kept taking it. I mean, people were just buying it in huge numbers. So yeah, it had to be limited.
A trend or something.
I can tell you where it came from. If just from, sorry to butt in, but it was from Australia. Panic bought, because Australia don't produce any of their own toilet roll. They import absolutely everything onto the continent, and it literally started in an area of Australia and became a worldwide phenomenon. Useless information, I know. Hello.
Thanks, Jenny.
but you also had some weird things, like you had flour that went out of stock because obviously people were at home, so lots more people were cooking. Were baking. Lots more children at home, so families would, you know, you had all of a sudden demand for what we thought we would normally have just completely changed, and certain things became hard to find. Yeah,
definitely. So how have you maintained communication and engagement throughout lockdown for your employees that have been working remotely?
So, well, the whole head office is working remotely, but we do lots of, obviously, the Zoom calls, which we do as normal, but there's lots of social as well. So we have, you know, like I think everyone's been involved in quizzes over this time and got their general knowledge up, but lots of social events as well, and get-togethers. There's lots that we do as well around well-being and making sure that our colleagues are okay. Because everyone's got different challenges over this period. I mean, being someone with 3 young children and homeschooling, I found it really, really hard to do my job and also be a parent at the same time. So I'm certainly proud of what we've done from a wellbeing perspective in terms of making sure, checking in on people, making sure they're okay, making sure they have the support mechanism if they need help, depending on what it is, that it's there and available for them. But generally just, you know, Zoom as normal. And it hasn't really affected us in a hugely impactful way from a communication perspective, because we're on our laptops all day. It just means that we're just doing it from home. So it hasn't been as big a obstacle as we probably thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why so many companies don't do it. They think all of a sudden, if you work from home, your productivity is going to go down, but it doesn't. It generally goes up. And it hasn't affected us from that perspective. You know, my team are working every bit as hard as they were before. They're just doing it more flexibly and more in line with what suits them, which for me is progress.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think on our last week's episode, we had the director from Hills on, and he was saying that he's seen a total flip in that an older generation would rather stay home and work more flexibly, whereas before you would see the younger generation wanting that more often. But now it's just flipped around, where the younger generation wants to be back in the office and have that social aspect, but of people with families now want to be able to stay home and get those travel hours back and be with their families. So it's interesting to see that. And a lot of teams are, finishing projects that were expected to take longer than they were, but now they're completing them really quickly, like you said earlier. So it's amazing to see that kind of way that the world's adapted.
I think if a business's response is, we don't do it because we don't think we'll get the same productivity, hence our people won't work hard, I don't think you've got a flexibility problem. I think you've got an employment problem. I think you're hiring the wrong people in the first place. If people don't want to work hard, they won't work hard in the office. They won't work hard at home. They're good at not working hard. You've got to trust your employees, and if you hire them in the right place, the right people at the right time anyway, you shouldn't have any issues. I mean, we certainly haven't, and no business that I know has really had an issue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good point.
Just empower your people to work where they want to work from, and they'll be productive.
Yeah.
It'd been great to be able to just go out and walk the dog on an afternoon and things like that, and just break your day up. I mean,
yeah,
it's been interesting. It's been good.
Definitely. Have you had any issues with people overworking almost, like they haven't been taking breaks and they haven't been taking holidays?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because that's one of the things you get when people start working remotely. They do more because they feel they have to do more. So if they miss an email for 10 minutes or an hour, they feel, well, do they think I'm not working? So, you have to reassure. I've certainly reassured my team that I'm not checking up. I haven't got KPIs that I'm expecting them to hit. I'm not looking for them to respond to an email every 2 minutes. It's okay. Get your work done. Do it within the best time frame for you within the day. So I do think a lot of people think that, though. I think a lot of people think if I'm not online, if I'm not seen to be online, people will think I'm not working if I'm at home.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to move on from that now. You mentioned earlier that that Asda is owned by Walmart, and I actually didn't know that before until I started talking to you and looking more into Asda. So there was a word floating around that also that Asda was going to be merged with Sainsburys, and that's something that I don't know if that's still going to be happening, or is there a lot of uncertainty around that with your people, and how have people reacted to that?
No, that's not happening anymore.
Okay.
That merger wasn't allowed to go through. Wasn't allowed to be pushed through. So no, that's kind of gone.
Okay. And did you? So you said that you had to do government guidelines with safety and everything. Was that something? So Walmart didn't have anything to do with lockdown measures at all, or was there any involvement with Walmart from overseas?
To be fair, I'm not 100% what it was. I'm pretty sure that the way that we worked though was within UK guidelines.
Okay.
So very much just in line with with whatever the government decided in terms of what the restrictions would be, or how many numbers you can have in your stores, all those type of things. It was all just linked through the UK government legislation.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of changes have you seen in like your culture since lockdown? I know we kind of touched on a little bit, but have you seen more communication and maybe more closeness throughout your teams and people who are working in the stores as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, certainly from a home office perspective, where our head office is, a lot of people feel that they're probably closer because we've had more connectivity than, and you can be, I might sit 100 yards from some people that I haven't spoken to when I'm in the office that I've now find that I'm speaking to more via Zoom. And it's strange. It's probably, for me personally, made me more connected to the office and to people within that office than before. And I think quite a few people have found that as well, that even though we sit close, we probably, because we're such a big business, big office, you're not that close to people. We've got a people team of way over 100, 150 people. So we're now on more regular calls together, and you get to speak on a more regular basis via Zoom and various other fun initiatives that we've got as well. Like I said, there's quizzes and various other things that we do as groups and catch-ups.
Yeah, that's great. And you said you're in the office for the first time today? Yeah,
it's my first one today. So
very exciting. It must be good to be back.
Well, it's really strange because you've got this big building and there's probably only 15% of us back in at the office today. So we're very flexible at the moment as to when people work from the office and when they don't. So it's completely my discretion. But it's nice also to come back into the office and see a few people, and having children as well. Being able to actually come here and focus, one day a week in the office helps.
Yeah. So are you just doing like it's up to you when you want to go in the office at the moment, or what's the future of work looking like for you and your team?
So at the moment it's totally up to ourselves and how comfortable we feel. So there's no, we're not making people come into the office. It's just about if for certain people will have to for logistical reasons in terms of what their job is, but as a people team, it's very much at our own discretion at the moment. And I think that will pretty much continue throughout this, certainly for the next few months. And as I said, having children now that won't be back at school until September, there's no pressure on me to be working back in the office 3-4 days a week. But we've always been quite flexible in our team anyway. So, we always worked a couple of days from home. It was never in our team, in the people team, it was always quite open to, what we needed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I think we can all agree there's one plus of coming out of COVID is that so many organizations who were more rigid on their flexibility are now being more fluid with it and letting people, and even just kind of thinking about the future of work. Businesses are completely changing now. So,
well, I've done this 20 years, and every study has always said that salary is the most important thing to people for year on, year out. But if you look at it now, you're seeing flexibility right up there with them, and that's not just flexibility in terms of can I leave early because I need to go to the hairdressers or something. It's true flexibility, and what that means to everyone is different. But you're seeing that be so important, and like I mentioned before, Generation Z is going to be the majority of the workforce within a few years' time. And I think that generation has been has had much more strength in demanding change than maybe my generation did. I think we acquiesced a lot to work, that you do work in the office 5 days a week, that you do work a certain amount of hours and at a certain time. And I think a lot of those archaic things are being broken down. And I think it's because each generation is getting stronger at demanding change and expecting it from businesses.
Simon, are you proactively looking at sort of making it a more output-driven KPIs for people?
I'm not sure, to be honest. In what way do you mean?
Well, as in, because obviously we have an enforced change that people can work from home or go to the office, but obviously there's things. Let's say we had an antidote next month. Are you proactively looking at, to truly be flexible, you need to work on the basis that you have a job to do and you know what your outputs are. So if you do it 3 till 4 in the morning every Tuesday and Wednesday, then power to you. So the office being warm, but I just wondered, just trying to get a steer for, because we're kind of seeing sort of people I'm talking to, the happiness index of some people are waiting to see what happens, and some people are proactively saying this is our chance to completely reimagine what the employee experience is. And I just wondered where you were on that curve.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that. We're definitely reviewing everything around, what does flexibility mean? What does it mean? And when you work in a business this big, it means different things to different teams. So it's sometimes not easy to just put a blanket statement out there to say, okay, everybody can now work from home, because some teams just can't. Logistically, it's just not possible. So it's really about how do you input that? How do you where it's possible. I think we're very much aiming to be a much, and we will come out of this a much more flexible business than when we started, for sure. Across the board.
A great litmus test, wouldn't it, would be if you end up going to recruit people in Norfolk when they're actually working in the head office in Leeds.
Yeah, and what's our biggest problem? Our biggest problem is we can't get the talent for a lot of our tech roles or hard to hire roles, but that's because we are hiring people within a 50-mile radius of Leeds. So yeah, exactly like you said, if I could make that nationwide or even further, that opens up a complete new conversation around talent and talent pool. There will be some logistics around it, but that for me is the big opportunity. I think the companies that go at this first, and you've seen a few of the big tech companies do it, they will get a competitor advantage over some of the others that are slow to the market with being more flexible and being more open as to where your talent comes from.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I think it is. I think from a recruitment perspective, it is, because like I said, it's just a totally new talent pool if we can do it. But I think you'll see, at the moment, you've just seen the big kind of tech companies do it, but I think you'll see a lot more coming out now.
Simon, can I ask, and do you know what your competitors are doing? So the other big three supermarket chains, and do you know where they stand? And do you think you've got the edge on them, or?
I think we're all at the same point at the moment. I think we're all kind of weighing up what's right for the industry and the business. Yeah. But I think every one of them, I mean, I do speak to a few people in different companies, and I think everyone's seen the positives of this. Obviously, there's been some horrible stuff from it, but there's positives of, as I said earlier, we got forced into this decision, but there's a lot of positives from it, because ultimately it's about productivity and it's about businesses staying profitable. But I think all of those supermarkets have seen that can be achieved. So I would hope that they would all be all in the same kind of mindset that this is something that will help to hire more talent coming forward, and we can keep the same productivity that we had previously.
But I guess it allows you to not catch up, but if Sainsbury's head office is in London, they always had access to a larger talent pool than you may have done. So it gets you back on a level playing field.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. We are regionally located. When it comes to talent, as I said, it's probably vast majority of our people 50-mile radius of Leeds, which covers Manchester, a few other areas, but yeah, it doesn't incorporate anything in the south, which is a huge opportunity for us in terms of the wealth of talent that is there. And I think for them also thinking, also for people thinking, if you think from social mobility perspective, if you've got some people in the Northeast, for example, that potentially now could work for a London business, there's lots of opportunities all around now where we can diversify a lot more as to where we hire our talent from. So I think it'd be great to see people from the North working more in London companies, and London companies, people in London working more in Northern companies, and not being so regionally centric all the time, which is what we have to be, because we've still got this mentality of having to be close to the office.
Just wait for HS2, it'll be fine. We'll just sit back and wait for them to build that train.
Shall we just wait for that? Okay.
I had a night, this is like, sorry, Rosie, I'm going off point. I had a brainwave when I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. I've got a business idea that I'll run past you, is regional cafes, but for job function. So I would run a HR cafe in Norfolk, just for people who work in HR, for example. Or I'd run a sales cafe in Durham, because that's where there's loads of salespeople. And it was like peer, you weren't with your own company, but you were just with peers. And you could facilitate some. I was sponsored by Williams Kent.
Can I just ask a question, Rosie, or sort of?
You guys, I actually have one more question, so the floor is open to you all, if that's okay with Simon.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know whether you might have already done that, but to look at Ocado as the model, because they're essentially your online supermarket, and I've done quite a bit of work with them, hence why I'm mentioning them. They have basically gone way beyond the borders of the UK, because obviously they're delivering online supermarket solutions for all sorts of supermarkets around the world, and their talent pool is very much in Eastern Europe, actually. We had I was hosting a panel discussion just over a year ago for Engage for Success, where we had a lady from Romania there, and they're upskilling big time. And we were talking about the talent shortage in terms of particularly IT and technology and robotics. And there's actually a huge pool of people in Eastern Europe that are dead keen to work in countries like the UK, and might be worth sort of exploring that and looking at the Ocado model rather than what your immediate competitors are doing, because I just think that there's so much talent sat out there, and then particularly with Brexit obviously coming, we were talking about it in that context when we were having that panel discussion. And the consensus around, and we had a chap from London School of Economics, Cass Business School, and he was talking about actually talent. The bigger organisations are at a massive advantage because they can much more easily actually engage people from all sorts of other countries around the world without sort of any limitations, which is much smaller obviously for SMEs. So I just think that as a business model is just the way to look forward, particularly with Brexit coming up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not involved in much of that, but from a personal perspective, as a recruiter, the more talent and diverse talent that we can reach or potentially hire, the better. So we are limited at the moment. There's no doubt about that. A lot of the roles that we're hiring now are tech roles, and they're very much in short supply. So as you said, there is lots and lots of people out there, not just in the UK and other regions, but also worldwide, that could potentially fill those gaps.
Yeah, very interesting. And one other question in terms of because obviously you've almost got sort of two ends of the scale now. You've just gone through this massive recruitment spurt with actually reverting back, like you said, to much more simpler ways of recruiting. Are there any positives that you're planning on taking forward, sort of post people, in inverted commas, returning back to work?
Sorry, you just broke up there. Could you repeat that one?
So are you planning on taking forward some of the the positives that you've clearly had in terms of the speed of recruitment and the way you've gone about actually recruiting at scale rather than going back to digital ways of recruiting?
We will return back. I mean, the reason was, I mean, that put the way that we started recruiting manually put quite a strain on stores as well, because obviously we were sending people straight into stores and they were having to handle more of the process. So they don't necessarily want to do that because that's not their day job. So we were almost outsourcing part of our job to them. So we will go back to the digital process. But the interesting part of it was that the digital process for us, though, wasn't going to be fit for purpose when it came to managing the numbers that we needed for COVID.
Mm.
Have you had any feedback from the people? So obviously you had to hire in masses really quickly. Have you had any feedback from the people, like through the recruitment process, of how it was from start to finish?
Yeah, we did. I mean, you can get obsessed with candidate experience when you're in recruitment, and certainly in home office and hard to hire roles, you spend a lot of time on that. But it really brought you down to earth in terms of the key metrics that people valued. And you had a lot of people that were just case of, look, I just need to start work really, really quickly. I need you to pay me on time. And I'm quite happy because, I know this isn't going to be a slick, smooth process. We're going through COVID. It's crazy times. But if you can just get the basics of what's important to me, then I'm happy. So I think sometimes we can kind of, be anguished that we have to do all of these different things, to have a smooth candidate experience. But when it came to COVID, it was about, for a lot of people, I need to start work as soon as possible to feed my family, make sure that I get paid on time, those basics. If you can sort those, then I'm more than happy with, the rest being a little bit of a bumpy journey.
Anybody else have any questions at all? We've been sitting here grilling you with questions for the past 40 minutes, but it's been really interesting.
Go on, Caroline.
Simon, you said you've been regularly checking in on people in terms of well-being. How have you been doing that other than just sort of phone calls? Was it anything over and above that?
Yeah, so we've got someone here that looks after well-being and inclusion and diversity, so they've been managing all of that. But yeah, it hasn't just been a hey, are you okay? It's been making sure that we can also point them in the right direction of where they need to go and make sure that we've got those things available to them. So yeah, I'm not involved in that, but it's been there. So for example, I've got, as I said earlier, 3 children, and there's been things in place for me to be able to take time out if I need to take time out to homeschool and not feel bad about that and not allow that to impact my job. So there's been lots of different things that have been available to different people depending on what they need.
Cool.
Simon, I had a question. All of the extra workers that you picked up because of COVID, obviously a lot of them won't remain in the Asda business. But do you think you'll keep any? Do you think there'll be any new team members that have joined on a temporary basis that will stay on a permanent basis because they've realised that a career in retail is a better option than the career they had at that point?
I think that's an interesting. I would say that I think. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm getting some feedback on that. I was just going to say, yeah, I think a lot of people have reevaluated what a career in retail is. And whether it's an option for them. I think there's a lot more people now that are interested for one reason, because it's a more safer economic industry to be in, but also because it did a lot of good during COVID. It really helped the nation, and I think the people have reevaluated how they see people that work within retailers as key workers and have really done a valuable job. So I think I can't tell you whether specific people in specific stores have stayed on, or I would have thought that would have happened based on the sheer number that we've got. But I absolutely know that some people have reevaluated whether a career in retail is for them. And I think there's been a lot of positive there about that. Yes, this is something that I wouldn't have thought about before, but now it's something that definitely could be for the future. And I think that's not just about protecting your income. I think that's about what jobs are available to them and what careers are available to them within retail as well, because everyone has a perception that retail doesn't have some of the careers that it actually does. So it's about us getting the awareness of where your career can go. It doesn't have to be just in store. It doesn't just have to be in home office. It can be in lots of different areas. It could be in logistics. It could be in tech. It could be in finance. It could be in lots of different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are up to 1:45, and I think I'm going to shut down today so we don't overbear Simon with any more questions. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all that with us today. It was really interesting.
No, great. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Well, thanks everybody for showing up today. We have another episode next week. I'll share some more details around who's going to be on next week. But I hope everybody enjoys their weekends away, wherever you're going or wherever you're staying.
Thanks, Rosie.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Good to see you all.
Thanks,
Take care.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.